Hello, everyone. How are you doing? And welcome to another episode of the Dr. Will Show. I am your host, Dr. Will, and I am here today with Dr. Jessica Fernandez. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for inviting me.
Awesome, awesome. Good to have you here, Doc. We're going to be talking about the state of online education in higher ed. You and I are very familiar with it as learners, but you have professionally worked in the field. So for those who are watching the show, will you please introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Jessica Fernandez, and I hold a PhD in instructional design for online learning. I've been in education since 2006, formally, and have worked as a K-12 teacher. I have worked in teaching college face-to-face, online for different universities, and I've been an instructional designer for over 4 years now. So I have a lot of experience in the field of online education, and I've really had the privilege to not only design online courses, but to be part of a team that actually developed a virtual campus for one of our state colleges here in the state of Florida. So just having that experience has just given me so much insight about online education.
Awesome, awesome. And I see the degrees hanging up on the wall. Uh, when I look at the gown, it's both a happy and not so happy memory
Right.
because for those who don't know, you're elated to be in that get up, but it's hot as all know what up under that gown.
Absolutely.
You sitting there going like, so I couldn't wait
You're
to
like,
get
can I get on with this graduation?
yeah, couldn't wait to get that thing off. So uh, let's just get into it. Both K through 12 and higher ed have been sort of slow in adopting and
Right.
adapting to the knowledge economy. As we look at different models, school missions, and various ways of delivering instruction,
Mhm.
where does online learning come into play?
Well, I think online learning is just such a huge tool that we can use in face-to-face instruction as well as completely online instruction. Um, there are a couple of things that I wanted to talk about, right? So we have traditional K-12 and we have traditional higher education. And in online, with online learning, we can definitely implement that in those types of arenas and create an awesome blended environment that creates all different types of learning opportunities for students. So I kind of have a list of some great learning opportunities that as a face-to-face instructor, you can quickly implement into your classrooms. So I guess some advantages of using online learning in a face-to-face environment would be that it really provides a flexibility to students to get learning experiences that they normally wouldn't get, right? So if an institution, or let's just say a K-12, a high school, let's say it's in an area that has lower income students, well, they don't have a lot of opportunities that maybe a different type of school would have, or students that come from higher income families. We can provide them opportunities that to see things that they normally would not see using the internet. Like we can take them on virtual tours of museums. We can take them, no longer does a teacher have to worry about buying a class set of textbooks or a class set of reading materials because we have the internet that can provide you tons of classics on Kindle or any type of ebook that you can download. So there's just so many opportunities that you can provide, not only to reinforce learning, which I think is huge nowadays, right? We have a certain set of minutes in a classroom. You have 30 students and, half the students are going to get it and half the students are not going to get it. It's just the way it is when you're in a classroom. But with online instruction, you could quickly provide resources that are tailored to a student. So if I had 5 students that were struggling with the same thing, I could supplement their instruction by having them go to a certain module so that they can get the reinforcement that they would need, that I just don't really have time in a classroom to give them that one-on-one attention. So that's a great way. So not only can they reinforce learning, but they can also use online education to prepare students for an upcoming lesson. So So we want to be, you could provide the background information that a student would need to be able to fully understand or comprehend what the teacher's going to talk about. So let's say I was a math teacher and I knew that there was a topic that is really going to be rough for students because I've taught years before and I know that students always struggle with this. So I could design an online module with tailored resources, videos, send them to Khan Academy. This is what you need to do. You could even give practice examples and give them the background knowledge or the foundation knowledge that they would need to be successful during that face-to-face classroom instruction. So I think that has really just changed the way that we look at face-to-face and also the way that we look at online education that's completely, 100% virtual.
Cool. So how does teaching and learning change, excuse me, when the classroom can be accessed via the internet? How does communication and engagement between professor-student and student-to-student change?
Well, I think that's a great question because I've had the luxury of being able to design professional development for faculty, teaching them how to teach online. A lot of people think that these two elements are completely different, and in essence, they're really not. Basically, you're still doing the same thing. You're communicating with your students, you're engaging students. And whether you do that face-to-face and whether you do that online, it's a little bit of different strategies that you use, but the essence is still the same. We're trying to communicate with students effectively because we're trying to relay materials to them and knowledge, and we're trying to engage students. So when a student knows that you're present in your classroom, whether you're face-to-face or online, they're going to participate more. It's exactly the same way when you're in face-to-face classroom. The minute I walk out of my classroom, what do students do? They misbehave, right? They start throwing stuff, they start talking, whatever. It's the same exact thing when you're in the online course room. The minute the student knows that you haven't been online for a couple of days, is the student going to be engaged? Probably not. Is the student going to, not log in? Absolutely, because they know that you're not going to be online. If they discussed on a discussion board and they know the instructor is not reading those discussion posts by responding back, asking critical questions, engaging questions, the student probably won't put 100% effort into it. So yes, the strategies might be a little bit different, but it really all comes down to effective communication and the ability to be able to engage students.
So, and you've experienced this yourself being a learner, but what are some of the typical attributes and characteristics of a successful online learner? And in contrast, which attributes are associated with students who struggle with online learning?
So I think online learning, right, is not really for everyone. Specifically, if a student is doing 100% online education. So there are some attributes that a successful online student possesses over a student that normally would not really do well online. So I came up with a list of some attributes. So for myself, even I do great online, and I do possess a lot of these attributes. So self-motivated, right? So definitely you have to be self-motivated, because I think after most online learners are adult learners, and they have full-time jobs. They have families, they have volunteer responsibilities, they volunteer at the church, they volunteer at the soccer fields and baseball fields. So after they've done life, right, they have to be self-motivated. They have to know that, okay, now it's time to, sit at the computer at 9:30 at night after you've just eaten dinner, you're tired, you have to go to work the next morning. But ultimately, their motivation is internal. They know that if they get this degree, not only is it going to improve their lives, it's going to improve the lives of their family as well. So, and I think that students that have that intrinsic motivation do better than students that have to be pushed and encouraged and, constantly, massaged and convinced to do something. So, and that's also for K-12 learners. A lot of homeschoolers are now doing virtual high schools, right? So they are also students that are very self-motivated as well. You have to be an independent learner, because I think, and I know for myself personally, there were a lot of things I didn't understand, right? The instructor said, hey, read this chapter 1, answer this question. And a lot of times you don't have the teacher explaining that to you. And so there's a lot of words and a lot of concepts that you may not understand, and you have to be a person that takes it upon yourself to really go above and beyond. What does this word mean? What does this context mean? What does this theory mean? How do we use this in a real life setting? So you're kind of aware of what you need to do, what your personal strategies are for you to learn. So you definitely have to be an independent learner. You have to be somebody that is very goal oriented. So you set goals and you accomplish those goals. And the reason is because you have to follow a set of goals, a certain steps in order to accomplish those goals. Online learning is very much that way, right? You set a goal. This is what I want to accomplish. And I know what steps I need to accomplish, what steps I need to engage in order to get to the end result. You also have excellent communication skills. I know I've heard a lot of people say that, only outgoing people do well in online learning, or, there's a lot of different myths out there, or only introverts do well on online learning. I think ultimately you just have to have good communication skills, good writing skills in order to communicate not only with your students, but to communicate with your instructors as well in a clear, concise, and professional way. You have to like to read, because bottom line, you have to read a lot when you're in college, and you have to read a lot when you're online. You have to follow directions when you're online. You wouldn't believe how many students adult students log into the courses, don't read the directions, they don't read the syllabus, they don't read the chapters, and then they're completely lost. Well, you have to read, in order to, and you have to like to read, because there's a lot of reading when, as you know, I mean, we've probably read hundreds and hundreds and maybe even thousands of articles, right? And textbook chapters in order to get a PhD. So it really has to be something that you enjoy. And you have to have basic computer skills, right? We're not saying that you have to be a coder, right? You don't have to know HTML and all this other stuff, but you have to be at least, savvy enough to be able to solve technical problems. You have to be able to, use a mouse and send emails and use Word documents and Excel spreadsheets and create a presentation. And those skills are important, because when you don't know those skills, then the computer issues, technology issues will become a problem for you. And then you can't focus on the learning. So if you have those basic skills, you can focus on just learning the material. You definitely have to have good time management skills. You have to be able to create a schedule and follow that schedule. You have to be able to prioritize. I know you know this, especially at the end, right? When we're working on our dissertations, there was a lot of events I had to miss. There were a lot of parties I couldn't go to. There were a lot of things that I couldn't participate in. There were a lot of volunteering I had to turn down because I had to prioritize my time. And in order to get my goal completed, I went to work an hour early. I stayed late. I worked during lunch, and I just had to prioritize my time in order to make it happen. And ultimately it worked, right? We got to the end result and we finished. But definitely time management. You have to be able to meet deadlines, right? So a lot of people don't know how to meet deadlines. They always think they have more time than what they do. But that's an important skill, right? And don't underestimate how long something really takes you. Sometimes we think, it'll only take me a couple of hours. And in essence, that task you thought will only take you a couple of hours takes you 2 or 3 days. You have to be a solution finder. And basically what I mean by that is you have to be a person that's willing to find solutions for whatever problems that you may face, because you're going to have a lot of problems in online education, and not necessarily with the content, right? It could be your computer's not working right. What do? Your internet's not working. There's a storm coming, right? What do? You have to be able to find solutions for that. So if your computer breaks down at 11 o'clock at night, what do? Do you have a backup plan? Can you use your iPad? If your internet shuts down, can you drive to the McDonald's and use the internet? And it's just a matter of being a person that is a solution finder. Don't dwell in the problem, right? Quickly find a solution. You can't post something online, email the teacher. Ask, if your learning management system doesn't allow you to submit your paper, guess what? Email the teacher, email her the paper, just as long as she knows that you sent it in at, by the deadline. So it's just being able to be creative with your solutions. And the more you do it, the better you become at it, where you're not even focusing on the problem anymore. You're just focusing on finding a solution. I think that's just a great skill for life in general. You have to be able to display netiquette, right? So basically what that is respect for others in the online environment. And that really has a lot to do with effective communication. How do we respond to people online? to our colleagues, to our classmates when they might be rude to us online in a discussion board. I've worked in groups, in a group setting, even in my doctoral degree. And I had a classmate basically insult the way that I write. She said that she didn't know how I even got into the program because I couldn't write. And she was just, I mean, it was an all blown out, attack. And ultimately, I had to be able to handle the situation. I had to involve the instructor, and I had to effectively communicate that this behavior was not okay, and that, you have to respect your classmates. And so, and I think the last thing, which is important for any learner, whether they're online or not, is you have to be aware of your own learning strategies. Not everybody learns the same way. And when I was younger, I don't do well with lectures. I will listen to you, but I'm kind of that kid that stares out the window the whole time, So what worked for me was writing everything out. So if I could rewrite something, for some reason that helped me remember. Being aware of your own learning and how you learn is really going to make the difference between whether you finish and whether you don't finish. And students generally do better who are aware of how they learn. And online learning, that's important. You have to know how you learn, and that will help you be successful. Now, some students, obviously, the opposite of the students that aren't successful online, other students, the opposite of all those characteristics. They're unmotivated. They need to be coached. They need to be encouraged every 2 seconds. These are non-communicators. They don't know how to communicate effectively. They don't know how to set goals. They don't know how to complete goals. They might not have computer skills. They don't really like to read, so they don't have time management skills. So those types of characteristics are not, it's not very conducive for online education. Does that mean that they're going to be a failure at life? Absolutely not, because online education is not for everybody. Everybody knows everybody has a way that they learn. Some people thrive in online education, and some people thrive in face-to-face traditional education. You just have to know what works best for you.
Awesome. So when we look at the design and development of online courses, why the echo is here. What are some of the skills that are necessary to be an effective instructional designer of online courses?
Well, that's a great question, because before I was an instructional designer, well, first I'd like to define what instructional design is. I was looking online, and I really just wanted to come up with just a great definition of what an instructional designer was. And so people ask me this all the time. They're like, oh, what do you do? And I say, I'm an instructional designer. And they say, so what do you teach now? And I go, no, I don't teach. I design online courses. And they kind of just give me this dazed look, like I still have no idea what you do, but it sounds very cool, right? So I'll just go along with the flow and keep smiling at you. So Purdue University had a great definition, and their definition was instructional designers implement theory and research processes to design and implement learning materials that produce greater outcomes for a specific group of people. So I think a great instructional designer is somebody that has a lot of different perspectives. I noticed that the best instruction, and I'm biased on this, right? But I feel like the best instructional designers that I've ever worked with have been teachers as well. So they have a different perspective. They have a perspective as an instructor, and they have the perspective as somebody that has the background knowledge to design online courses, and even take it to the next level where they've actually taken online courses themselves. So they have a lot of different perspectives as an instructor, as a student, and as a person that has the knowledge to design online courses. So just having all those different perspectives really, I feel like is a great component to being a great online instructor. Now, are there certain skills that every online instructor should have? Absolutely. I'm going to read a couple of them off. I read this great article, and they had a beautiful graphic on there. And the article came from learn-.com, and it's called 9 Essential Instructional Designer Skills. And it's just a beautiful graphic that they had on there. And basically, a good instructional designer, right, to sum it up, is a person that designs online courses. we use instructional design theory, learning theories, and pedagogy, which is the science of teaching and learning, to create learning experiences for students. So our goal is not only just to create a lesson or to create a great piece of content, but we want to create an experience for the students so that they can learn. And we want to create these experiences so that all different types of learners can learn from that interaction. So every interaction is an opportunity to help the student achieve the goals of the course. So what are some of the skills? So one of the skills is, first of all, you have to be a great writer. You have to be able to write and effectively communicate in writing. The reason why I say that is, when I first became a teacher, my biggest challenge was writing directions for students, because the students never had any idea what I was trying to ask from them. So I learned in the beginning that I had to simply write out in a clear and concise way what exactly I was expecting from my students. And that's how I learned how to be an effective writer. And so I would create directions. I would list them out. Number 1, I want you to do this. Number 2, I want you to do this. Number 3, I want you to do this. So that they could clearly understand what outcome I was expecting from them. If I could read it to my husband and he knew exactly what I wanted, then I did a good job. That's exactly what instructional designers do. We take complex ideas and we make them simple enough so that students can learn that information. So you have to be a good writer. You have to be an innovator, right? So you have to kind of think about things, take ideas, and then create something new from those ideas in a way that maybe has not been thought of before. Okay? You have to be a researcher. We are people that you're going to notice that instructional designers are people that have been teachers. They have higher degrees because they just love to learn. They love to research. We're always online. We're always Googling something. We're always looking for articles. We're always supporting ideas. We're reading books. We're, attending webinars. We're going to conferences because we just love to learn. There's always something to learn. And I think I know for myself, what I learned about getting a PhD is that there's so much more to learn, right? So the more you learn, the more you realize that you don't know anything at all. There's always something to learn. So you have to be a researcher and to be able to have the skills to find information that is reputable and that is that it's good information. You have to be able to develop, right? Ultimately have good development skills. So you have to have good technology skills to be able to develop courses online. And be able to learn new tools at any moment. So anything that's out there, I'm messing with it. I'm playing with it. Prezi, PowerPoint, Articulate, Engage, Captivate, Adobe products, anything, Wordle, any technology tool that's online, that's free. I'm using it. I'm trying it because these are opportunities to create instruction for students to learn. You have to be a media expert, okay? Videos, that type of thing. You have to ultimately solve problems, right? Because that's what creating learning experience is. We're trying to solve a problem. And the problem is we want the students to learn. How are we going to be able to do that? Who's the target audience? And is this instruction appropriate for that target audience? You have to be a good facilitator, right? Because ultimately, we're not lecturing at people. We're facilitating learning. We're helping you engage in the learning process. That's the ultimate goal. We have to be a good project manager because when you're an instructional designer, there's so many different pieces that go into designing a good online course. And basically you have multimedia development. We're creating storyboards. We're collecting content from the instructor. We're writing objectives. There's just so many different pieces and you have to be able to manage that project to put all the pieces together to get your final project. And you have to be a good editor, right? And you working on your PhD and me as well, you have to be able to recognize errors. And that's what I do, right? So I go through courses, I reread content, I check to see if there's spelling errors, if everything is working. And so you have to be able to edit your own work. But yeah, being an instructional designer is very, very exciting, very multifaceted. And every instructional designer has a different skill set that they can apply differently to any project.
Awesome. Now, more universities are developing online degrees. What are some of the benefits and successes of colleges and universities offering online programs? And what are some of the drawbacks?
Right. So there are a lot of different universities that are offering online degrees. We have all different types. We have of higher ed institutions, right? So we have community colleges, we have state colleges, we have private universities, and we have nonprofit universities. And then there's all different types of schools in between that, right? We have technical colleges and just so many different learning institutions. And each has their own set of rules that they abide by, different accreditation and all that, and all those types of I guess, rules and standards that they have to adhere to. But if I could just pick three things. So 3 main benefits of institutions offering online degrees. First of all, the first one is they can reach a demographic that they would not have been able to reach before. So for instance, I worked at a state college and we were only allowed to recruit students from 3 counties. Well, now with online education, you've just opened up that demographic to everybody in the state of Florida, everybody in the United States of America, and anyone outside of the country as well, right? So you have just expanded your whole demographic. And that's a great opportunity because that brings a different type of student into your organization. And it gives your students an opportunity to work with other types of students that they normally would not get to engage with. So, you know, if you're in Florida, obviously, you know, you're going to have a lot of people that were born in Florida. But if you open that up with online education, they could, you know, potentially meet people that are in the military, maybe serving in Afghanistan. They could meet people that were raised in New York, like I was, right? We have a totally different way about us. We talk super fast. We talk with our hands, right? So it's just a different experience that you're providing for your student. The second thing is that they can create, they can recruit highly educated and experienced faculty that they normally would not be able to recruit, right? So not everybody wants to move to, you know, where I am. There's a lot of cow pastures, right, in where we are. So not everybody's going to want to move here to take a teaching job. But if it's online and it's remote, you could literally hire a professor from Harvard, you know, and have them teach as an adjunct for your state college. And now your student is getting literally a Harvard education right here at your state college. So it's an opportunity to recruit different faculty that can just bring so much of a different skill set and experience and even culture, right? Somebody that came from, you know, Europe is going to, you know, just have a different flair and be able to contribute in a different way than an instructor, you know, here from the States. So I think it's just a great opportunity to give students a different learning experience. The third thing, how an institution can benefit from an online program is they can rethink programs and they can rethink their current programs to fit the needs of the job market. Right. So I think what happens is in face-to-face institutions is they kind of get stuck on certain programs that they've been teaching forever. Right. Because these are popular to the people in their region. But this gives them an opportunity to meet, target a different demographic and to really look at not only fields that are popular in the region, but also fields that are popular in the United States, in Europe, in Africa, in, you know, Asia, everywhere, all over the world. So it's a great opportunity to provide different programs that they normally would not provide at all. So some drawbacks, I guess, of institutions offering online degree programs is the lack of resources to make it happen correctly, right? So there's a lot of different facets that go into online education. Money, people, knowledge, right? And so a lot of schools, they don't have all those resources to be able to do it correctly. So that's a drawback. Another drawback is the culture of the institution is just not ready for online education. This can include policies and procedures that do not support the culture of online learning. So if you're going to have an online learning department or programs, your policies and procedures have to support that. So you can't make students come in to take a test and then expect that, you know, you're going to have students from Texas and Nevada and Washington, D.C. and Afghanistan, and you want them to take your online program here in Florida, right? They can't come in and take a test. There's policies and procedures that are stopping the students from doing that. You have to change your policies and procedures to support the online education. And I think the last thing is, if it is a brick and mortar institution, you have to be prepared for your enrollment to go down on some of your physical campuses, right? So for example, I worked at a state college, and you know that when the online programs became available, the physical campuses, the enrollment actually went down on the physical campuses because so many students were enrolling in the online education programs and courses, because people work, people have, you know, a lot of, you know, people have kids, people have volunteering. And so the enrollment on the physical campuses actually went down because of that. So that's just something that you just need to be aware of. You know, it's not a huge issue because you're ultimately still, you know, getting students enrolled, but be prepared not to have as many students on your campuses as well. So I know students that are, you know, pay for dorm and everything, and they still take online courses, and because they don't want to go to class. So, you know, just depends.
Now, before we go, excuse me, I want your advice for universities that are thinking about offering a distance learning program. What are some of the pedagogical and staff needs that they must consider?
Wow, so that was a really great question as well, because like I had mentioned a little bit earlier, I was part of a team that actually helped develop a virtual campus. And so there were so many things to consider when starting an online virtual program. So there were 7 things that I could come up with to kind of give some advice, right, to other people wanting to do that. So the first thing that I wrote down was, be sure that everybody or everyone in the institution understands the vision for the online education program and that everybody contributes to its success. Because ultimately, right, it can't be like online education is here and then the rest of the institution is here. Everybody works towards the same goals and the vision of the online division at your institution. So everybody has to be a contributor. All the faculty have to contribute. All the faculty have to know what the vision is. The people in the financial aid office have to know what the vision is. They are contributors to that. The student success people, you know, every department in an institution has to be on board with the vision. And they have to know that their role is important in that online education as well for it to be successful. So the second thing is, be sure the policies and procedures support the online education programs and its students. So, you know, it could be as simple as enrollment, right? Some schools don't even have an online application. So does that help a student wanting to enroll in your online program? Absolutely not, right? So, you know, even dedicating online, you know, virtual counselors, you know, so make sure that your policies and procedures are massaged before you actually start your program. Don't wait to start the program and then start changing the policies and procedures. Get it ready first, build the foundation, and then start your program. And then you'll see that it'll go smoother than if you do it the other way around. Number 3 is, determine what the goal is for your specific online program and create or implement a learning model that supports it. So everybody's online program is going to be different. Not everybody's going to have the same goals for their online learning program. There's different things that we want to teach. There's different outcomes that we have for our learning programs. And so once you know what that goal is, once you know what the outcome is, then create your program based on that outcome, and then look for learning theories and learning models that are going to support what you're trying to do. And so, you know, it's okay to use another person's program as a model, but ultimately everybody's program is different because we all have different students. We all live in different areas. And there's a different goal for every institution. So definitely, you know, think about what the goal is for your specific online program. 4, invest in developing a comprehensive team for creating, maintaining, and leading your online programs. So people think that it's just a matter of, oh, hire some instructional designers and you have an online program. There is so much more that goes into just into online education. You need instructional designers. You need multimedia developers. You need subject matter experts. You need people that are going to design new courses. You need people that are going to maintain those courses. You need, videographers. You need faculty that are going to be able to teach those courses. You need to train faculty. You need trainers. There's just so much that goes into it. You need a director. You need project managers. You need somebody to, you need IT people so that they can keep your equipment up and going. There's just so many facets that go into online education. It's not just a matter of hiring instructional designers and then thinking you're done. No, there's a huge team of people that make an online program effective and a quality online program ultimately. So invest in developing a comprehensive team. Invest in training faculty and teaching online that are going to be teaching online. So you want to have the best faculty. You want them to be able to have those effective communication skills. You want them to be able to engage students, and you have to teach them to do that. I think that we named off a list of characteristics for students who are successful online. Those characteristics are equal for instructors as well, right? So instructors have to be self-motivated to get online, to make sure that that they're answering the students' emails, that they're engaging in the discussion boards, that they're grading and giving students, quality feedback, that they are answering questions, that they're making sure that the students are behaving themselves, that they're, abiding to the Netiquette rules. So instructors have to be taught how to do those different things online, because it is a little different than face-to-face. And a lot of people think that teaching online is easier than teaching face-to-face. And I actually think that it's a little bit harder to teach online than it is face-to-face, because once your 50 minutes or your hour is up with your students, you go home and you answer a couple emails during the week. But when you're teaching online, it's every day, all day, Saturday, Sunday, students can have questions over, break. Students are asking you questions. You can't answer a question 3 days later and a student needs help now, right? So because for them, it could be a matter of success or failure, right? So you can answer it within 24 and 48 hours. But instructors need to be trained so that they know how to effectively communicate with students. The sixth thing is, be sure when you build your course development team, don't be afraid to hire people with completely different skill sets, because that's what makes a great instructional design team. Some people are great at designing assessments. Some people are great at designing multimedia interactions. Some people are great at writing learning objectives. Some people, are great at just coming up with different ideas for instructional strategies. Don't be afraid to hire people with completely different skill sets, because when you put them all together, you can really design quality interactive courses for your students. So really look for people with a diverse skill sets. And the last thing is, remember that online learning is constantly changing. Therefore, you have to change too. Don't be afraid to try new things, and don't take too long to implement them. So I think when you're working in a traditional institution, whether it's K-12 or higher ed, change takes a long time, right? So we come up with an idea and it could be implemented 2 years later, and we're still trying to implement the idea. Online education is not that way. You cannot wait 2 or 3 years to implement something. You have to do it right away. So something new comes up and it has to be done in a matter of months, quickly. And you can't be afraid to do that. Some things are going to work and some things are not going to work. Those are just chances you take with online education. But go out there and don't be afraid to try things, and change is actually good in online education. So that would be my advice.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Fernandez, for being on the show.
No problem.
Okay, people. On the blog post where this will go on, and this will be on LinkedIn and SoundCloud as well, there will be some information there where you see Dr. Fernandez's bio and how to be able to connect with her on social media. Thanks again, everyone, for being I'll say being a guest, but watching the show, being welcomed into the home. And as always, invest in you, EDU. Peace.